Hi guys, can everyone hear me? I might have to speak a bit louder, I don't have a mic. Welcome to another DevOps Society meetup. It's been a while. We've had a couple months off, but we see a lot of new faces, so we'll give intros in a second. Firstly, I want to say a big thank you to Veracode for hosting, for the hospitality as well, for the food and drinks, and helping organize this event, and Steve Wade as well at the back, one of our speakers who also helped make this happen. So thank you guys. Quick intro on us before we get started. So again, like I said, a lot of new faces, so people just know who we are. So my name is Vitas, and that's Ben. We're the co-founders of the DevOps Society. So we're the guys that organize meetups across London, Birmingham, Manchester on a monthly basis. And we do it for this reason, so people can network, connect, and listen to some great talks as well, which we definitely got lined up. Leading on to that, we've got two amazing talks. So we've got Amanda first from Veracode, and we've got Steve Wade, which we'll get started now. What we're going to do is Amanda from, Katie from Veracode is going to give just a quick welcome. Just speak into this so we can record.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. What a turnout. I think this might be the biggest audience that we've had, to be honest. So I'm Katie, I'm from Veracode. Welcome to our London office. Veracode is an application risk management company, which means that we find and fix vulnerabilities in software for organizations, and we also work directly with developers to help them write code that's secure from the start. We've been around for about 20 years, and we're headquartered in Boston, but we have employees all over the world. Really excited to host you today. Thank you so much for joining us. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, Amanda, who is our International Director of Client Success.
I noticed that women's clothes does not come with pockets nor places to put speakers, okay? Designed that way for a reason. So, my name is Amanda Lee. As Katie said, I am the Director of Customer Success across Veracode, and my job is to meet with customers and make sure that they can mature their program, they can see the benefits and the value out of Veracode. I'm not here on a marketing mission, so you're not going to hear so much about that. Instead, what I want to talk about is the strategies for building resilient software in what is an ever-changing and complex ecosystem. Hands up if you've got Time Hop on your phone. Does anyone have the app Time Hop on their mobile phone? Oh my gosh, you're all missing out so much. Time Hop is a brilliant app that shows you pictures that you took 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, however long you've had your phone. And I love it because I've got kids who are 6 and 8, so I can see their snotty little faces from last year, 5 years ago. It's also quite scary because you see COVID statistics from 5 years ago, and you see other things that you were hoping to forget. So I thought I would start this presentation by looking at why is it a complex ecosystem? What has changed in the last, let's say, 3 years, right? So if you look at the macro environment, if you look at big things that happen in the world, 3 years ago, start with interest rates. They were 1.25% here in the UK, Bank of England round the corner, quite different from today. Monkeypox outbreak was first reported. Can't remember where, but it was. New Zealand had only just opened its borders after COVID. There was a massive data breach which exposed sensitive data on individuals receiving humanitarian aid, and the United Nations were getting slashed for it. And 3.8% of workers were using artificial intelligence. So that was our world 3 years ago, okay, this month 3 years ago. Compare that to today, right? It's really different. So that's at the macro level, but what has changed about cybersecurity? Well, we all use the cloud. Why do we use the cloud? Because as we're all home workers, we're all hybrid workers, so we work in Starbucks and McDonald's, anywhere that gives us free Wi-Fi. People turned up early to this event to work here because they knew we'd have good Wi-Fi, right? That's how we work nowadays off the cloud.
Is there Wi-Fi?
There is Wi-Fi, yeah. There is. And not only is there Wi-Fi, there's also the head of IT just lurking at the back who can help you if you've got a problem with it. Artificial intelligence is being thrown about all the time as the most transformative force of our time, bigger than the internet, bigger than electricity, right? The other thing that's changed in our techie worlds is that infrastructure is now considered code. 3 years ago, infrastructure wasn't considered code. We didn't worry about our infrastructure in the same way that we considered and worried about our software. So now organisations are looking at reducing risk rather than just scanning and knowing what the risk is. And they need to do that in the complex world where there are millions of different tools available. So with that in mind, I want to just present our world today. So does anyone know what percentage of developers, I mean, all statistics are made up on the moment, but roughly what percentage of developers are using artificial intelligence? Anyone want to hazard a guess? 50, 95? 80. Depends which articles you read. Deloitte are touting it at being 87% of developers. I could throw any statistic at you, but roughly that. And the fact about artificial intelligence generating code on our behalf, because I reckon that most people in this room use some form of AI to generate their code, is that it has more vulnerabilities in it than code that you as an individual generate. Now, why is that? It's because it's a risk multiplier. So only 45% of code that is generated by AI is considered safe against common vulnerabilities. So that's like against the OWASP top 10. I gave a talk that someone here was at a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago maybe, I can't see you, wherever you are at the moment, somewhere in the room. And someone at the front said, I work for the OWASP top 10, I'll give you the exact stats. But the fact is that even against a standard like that, AI comes up incredibly badly. So only 45% is secure. If you look at particular languages, so for example, if you were to take or particular vulnerabilities, SQL injections, 18% of all of that code has vulnerabilities in it. And that's quite scary because if you as an individual were generating code, it would be a lot safer. Code quality is also massively affected by that. So JavaScript has got 71% errors in it, and Java 20%. So you see a massive difference between the two. And then critical vulnerabilities being missed. There are vulnerabilities that we would not want to have in. So output neutral, OS command injection, only 12 and 36% of that code is secure. That's terrifying. And what it means is that AI is allowing us to generate code faster and faster and faster, but actually in a less secure way. Now, not to show off my age at all on this, because Time Hop unfortunately shows that I did look younger a few years ago than I look today. But I studied applied intelligence systems at university, which was a combination of psychology, cybernetics and computer science. I couldn't spell cybernetics when I filled in my UCAS form. That shows how old I am. And in the lectures on artificial intelligence, they said, don't worry, 2001, don't worry, artificial intelligence will never take off, because it can never have common sense, the philosophy doesn't really work, the ethics are never going to be there, and there's no IP, there's no ownership of that, right? Please. Oh, I should have said, more interactive the better.
Does the middle image,
This one.
does mean that AI writes the most secure JavaScript code?
No, that's how insecure it is, sorry. Yeah, that's not a very clear sight.
Yes.
That's 71% insecure, 52% insecure. So it's the reverse.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
So
good point.
Is it written by human?
If that is written by artificial intelligence, then those are the statistics.
Amazing. Thank you.
Say again?
You have the stats for humans.
I don't have the stats for humans. I'm sorry. Katie, where are you? Do you have the stats for humans? We can search out. So Veracode, like every application security company, produces a state of software security report. So we got ours out about 5-6 months ago, and you can download it from the website for free. You fill in your details and it sends it to you. And it just compares averages and benchmarking against AI, but not humans. So I haven't seen that. So the fact of the matter is that AI and open source packages are expanding your attack surface, right? And making risky dependencies. Add to that, how do you think it how do you think AI affects the time it takes a developer to fix a flaw once it's found? Any suggestions or ideas?
Speed up.
Speed up. Interesting. Anyone else?
I would gather it's more or less the same. Time to fix a human bug or an AI created bug.
Okay.
That you wrote code yourself.
So say more.
I said it probably depends if you wrote the code yourself. 'Cause then you can probably fix your own bugs quicker than
Exactly. Exactly.
AI is going to be even worse.
That's what the report finds, that if you're taking code, if you're borrowing code, buying code, using AI to generate code, then actually it takes longer to fix because you don't know the code set in the first place, right? And you don't know the logic behind that. So we'll come on to some stats later, but over time, it's taking developers 5 times longer to fix code because they're using open source libraries, because they're using artificial intelligence, because they're using code that they themselves are not generating. And that, I think, is quite scary.
Last question, I will shut up.
No, more questions, more questions.
But okay, if AI wrote the code for me
Mhm.
and I discover a security issue,
Mhm.
then I'm going to tell AI to fix it and it's
Yes.
going to be 20 times quicker than I do it.
That is a very fair point. If AI is fixing it, we haven't seen so many examples yet of AI writing code and AI fixing the same code, because if AI could fix the same code that it wrote, it wouldn't have introduced it in the first place. But we all know that large language models are generated from publicly available data. Yeah? And the publicly available data has flaws in it as well. Our old CEO was called Sam King, and she was going to be interviewed about 2 years ago. Katie, you set up the interview, about 2 years ago by the BBC, and it was midnight her time in Boston. So she said to her teenage kids, let's find out what this journalist can find out about me before the interview. So she Googled herself. No, she didn't. She used ChatGPT version 1 to find out what would the interviewer find out. And it was brilliant. They had so many articles about Veracode, so many articles about when she had taken over as CEO, of the jobs that she'd done all the way through Veracode. But ChatGPT assumed that Sam was male, because the CEO of a tech company is likely to be male. So there's only so much they can do. Now, I accept that we've moved on with ChatGPT from a couple of years ago, and it's a lot better now. I get your point. AI can fix much faster than humans can fix. And not only that, but it can also do batch fix. This isn't a marketing plug at all, but we have a tool called Veracode Fix. And when you allow it to search, we've trained it ourselves, not on public data. When you allow it to search all your code and suggest fixes for you, you have the choice of 1, 2, 3. And then when you've picked that, you can choose, should it fix that or batch fix all of those flaws in the same scenario. Now, it doesn't always get it right because AI hasn't yet understood the context and the logic of everything. And that's still a bit of a problem, but it's a lot quicker than humans. It's interesting that of high vulnerabilities, so the ones that you would consider critical or high, 71% of, I love stats, 71% of all critical vulnerabilities come from open source or AI. So it's typically not where a developer is introducing that. Let's stick with numbers because I like them. So security debt even, which is a vulnerability that's been around for a year or more, is in your attack surface, it's in your supply chain, and your risk is rising all the time. 2 years ago, Samsung very famously, does anyone remember what Samsung did to their developers? Go ahead, John.
They leaked their credentials by sending them to AI, and then other people could get them back out of AI.
Exactly so. And that was terrifying. So basically, they accidentally exposed their own code to ChatGPT, who then reused it for other people. And that was terrifying. So in 2023, Samsung said our developers can't use artificial intelligence anymore to generate code. Right?
Microsoft did that.
Have they?
I read something about it.
Interesting. I'd be interested to see the article. It wouldn't surprise me.
I thought they fired like 40% of their staff to be replaced by AI.
They did. They fired a hell of a lot to get rid of them. Yeah, absolutely. So what are the top challenges that we're facing at the moment? I've said to you that now is the time when we can least afford to have debt. So I want to just talk through each of these. 67% growth in the past 2 years of attack surfaces because of cloud adoption and remote working. I'm going to guess that there isn't a single person in the room here that goes to the office every day. Is that a fair assumption? Oh, there is. There's one person. Anyone else brave enough to admit? Is that something that your company expects, or
Yeah, they expect.
for all teams, or
Yeah, for all teams.
okay? That's when you're going to tell us you're picking the orders, right? Or not?
Finance company, so it's pretty standard.
Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. Yes, banking and finance is the most likely to. But I suppose what we're seeing there is that cloud adoption, remote working, untested software and hardware actually is making sure that there are more attacks that go on. But also, for who here travels for work, whether it's a different office, a different country, city? So quite a few people. Do you log on to the airport Wi-Fi? Of course you do. No? No? Okay, so you take your own, you tether to your phone or something. Say again? Hotspot, yeah. I would say that most people you meet in Starbucks, in McDonald's, in airports, in airport lounges, whatever, are using that Wi-Fi and exposing themselves. It's terrible. It is terrible. Yeah, but it's not something we imagined 3-4 years ago that would be a problem. 80% of the software supply chain risk are escalating because they target vulnerabilities in a third party. That's what I said before. And third party is really hard to control because you haven't written it in the first place. And even if you can understand and you can get that class of code and you can parse it and you can work out which library and which line of code you're using, you don't know what's gone into the context behind it, right? So it's really hard for you to solve it. We found in last year's SOS report, State Software Security Report, that applications grow on average 4% each year in size, right? So people are adding new features and functionality. And you don't need me to stand here and tell you that there's a pressure to get those features and functionalities out. And if anyone, has anyone done a project management qualification here? Yeah, unfortunately, yes, I feel much the same. Do you remember that triangle that you had for a project? So in order to get something out, you can either compromise. Do you remember? Anyone want to say the three things? Yes. So budget, time, quality, right? And unfortunately, what we're doing now with software is reducing that quality to get it out on time by not fully testing. And the whole concept of DevSecOps, I know this is DevOps, so I apologize, but it's to put security in the middle between development and operations so that we test early, often, and all the time. 45% security risk from AI generated code, which is code that we don't really know about. We don't know where it's come from and we don't know how to solve it quite often. And there's also very limited governance. There's I saw a slide that was presented here a couple of weeks ago by a visitor. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was a new salesperson that came in. And he highlighted on the board how many laws there were about artificial intelligence and how they should be used. There was about 45 across the globe, 45 country laws or cross-country laws about them. And then he crossed out the ones that Trump had crossed out. And then he crossed out the ones that weren't really live yet, but they were thinking of, and there ended up being 12. But there is no international governance at the moment for artificial intelligence, which means that you don't know what the risk is yet. And then 70% of compliance reporting and audit, it's weighing down the teams. So they have to manage different frameworks. You've got DORA that's coming in for Europe. You've got MAS, you've got PCI, you've got so many different controls and governance things to manage. Was anyone developing code or affected by Log4j? Most people in the room. Not so much. Okay, interesting. Everyone I spoke to at the time, right, all of the clients I spoke to were trying to manage these mammoth spreadsheets, right, where they had different tabs for where's your network risk, where's your, I don't know, software risk, where's your hardware risk. Was yours the same? And it was juggling of tabs in the spreadsheet, and there wasn't any way to understand one single framework for governance. Do you want to say more about that?
So good thing was we had CrowdStrike and other stuff, which kind of helped us.
Yes.
What are the areas where we need to, fix? And there was also a vendor product. So we had to reach out to vendor, which was a Tel Aviv, Israel, to fix it overnight. We had to do our stuff as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And now that we're automating more of the CI/CD pipelines, I think that makes it easier because you can automate the fix as well, right? So that does make it slightly easier. So I wanted to give you, not in marketing terms, but to just give you an overview of what was found. And again, I'm going to credit Katie and the marketing team to do that. So we first did our State of Software Security report 15 years ago. So in 2010, we found that the number of apps that were passing the OWASP top 10 was 23%. Right, it's 2.5 times now, if I've got my maths right, 2.25 times now in 2025, which is great, right? It means that the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities are not occurring so much in our applications, which is amazing. The bad news is that the number of days to fix a flaw has increased exponentially. So before it used to take 59 days, so 2 months, to fix a flaw if you work every day. And now it's taking 252. And the reason for that is the third-party code and the AI code.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Do you have the source? You're being very specific in a number of areas. I'm super interested in the source of this data. Is the source of this Veracode customers?
Katie?
Solely Veracode?
Yeah. I wonder if when we send out the slides, could we also send out the State of Software Security report?
Yeah, definitely. We've got, there's a whole PDF and you have a full read of the report afterwards.
So,
it's based on a million applications.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, it's 1.3 million applications across 2,500 customers for 38 trillion lines of code. Have I got that right? I can come back to it. I can look it up. It's in my notebook on my desk. But it's a huge amount of data. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I'm happy to send that out at the same time. So the security debt I mentioned before is that 70% of customers have security debt, and of that, 45% have critical security debt. So that's something that you would think was an imminent risk now. Did you want to ask something about it being Veracode data versus some else's data? Was there something we can dive into?
I guess the extension of that question is people will be paying Veracode because their software is probably in a bad state. So I think
It's true.
there would be a slant in the data you're presenting. So some of the things you said earlier about open source software taking 5 times as long as internally generated software to fix bugs that are caused by, I think, is largely untrue, and would love to see the source of that. So, yeah.
So what's really interesting is that you've got different types of customers that come to us, right? And I speak to a lot of the customers on a daily basis. You've got customers whose programs have failed with other vendors, so they've come to us. And ditto, you've got people that leave us and go to other ones. So I'm not trying to promote it. It works both ways around. You've also got people who have never scanned before, who are trying it out for the first time. Now that's quite unusual in 2025. You've also got, and I wish I could say, but I can't, you've also got some really big name, blue chip national companies who pay us in order to scan and then don't scan. Or they scan and then they don't fix anything. So the range of customers within it is actually quite massive. It's very rare that customers have a breach and then come to us and say, let's start a program. That's the only type of customers that I haven't seen. Do you think there'll be some, so I'm really interested in that, do you think there'll be some customers who know that their software is secure so they don't start a new program?
The question I'm more interested in the answer to is what makes you think the cohort of companies you have are representative of the world at large, which I think is the larger thing that you're saying is the data.
I think that's a fair thing. So Katie, I would say that we have customers across all industry ranges, don't we, and all sizes of customers. And often we have customers who have third parties who become our customers. No, I think it's a really, really interesting point.
Specific figures here which are being presented as this is the world.
Yeah, I get your point. Okay, so I'm going to rephrase it and say from what we see, this is the world. Is that fairer? So where were we up to there? So I would say that longitudinal studies of customers that use Veracode do give us really interesting statistics. And I don't want to jump into this too much. I just want to take the big pictures off here. I'd say that if you look at it, this is 15 years ago, 5 years ago now. So hardly anyone was scanning here. Now everyone was scanning. Again, really broad brush. Applications with at least one flaw, roughly the same. It's gone up a little bit. OWASP top 10 rate gone up massively. High severity flaws have gone down, and average number of days to fix has gone up hugely. Partly because our scanning tools, everyone's scanning tools are better and they're finding more flaws, but they've got a higher complexity, and we've got more distributed architecture. I think that's a really big deal as well. So we talked about lagging and leading, and we've talked about many of this already, and I'm also very aware of time, and my slides are in the wrong order. So we won't spend ages on this one, but I did just want to mention these are 5 areas. What we suggest that customers do, our customers, Sneaks customers, Checkmarx customers, whoever they are, is to look at what are your flaws per megabyte and where do you put yourself within this. And I think this is a good range to have. We've looked at our top 25 and bottom 25 customers and asked people to put it in there. The fixed capacity is a really interesting one. And they go back to your point on AI for fixing as well, right? Which is, often companies know that they have vulnerabilities, but they don't have the people to fix them because the developers that develop the code in the first place aren't there, or because they're just maxed out with doing new stuff that's going on. So this is the number of flaws, the percentage of flaws that's fixed every month. Fixed speed is obvious. Security debt is the vulnerabilities that have been there for more than 1 year. And open source critical debt, that's the one that's jumped up massively. Does this resonate with people a little bit in terms of where we should be looking at assessing the maturity of a program? Because I said we would talk about leading and lagging. So is this something that's resonating with people, these categories? Okay. There was no note. Say again?
I think we didn't understand the question.
The question was, if you were looking at how mature your program was and how to move from lagging to leading, are these the types of things that you would look at?
I think it aligns with like the DORA metrics.
Yes, that's also true. Yeah. Are you involved in DORA?
No,
But yeah, you have to comply with it. Okay, so everyone's really interested in AI, and so I just thought we would put up some statistics that were vaguely interesting about that. One of the most common searches that I found on Reddit, literally last week when I was looking at it, was how do I integrate the code that I found on AI into my code base? So that's the world that we live in right now. And we can all laugh at that, and we can all say that's other people. But as those Veracoders in the room would attest, for the hell of it, I decided to organise a cupcake decorating competition in the office a couple of weeks ago, right? And we've just launched our new brand. We used to have the brand 01, it's now a V. So I brought in all the right things, and that's why we've got cupcakes in the kitchen now. And that was a competition to do it. I hadn't really thought about a poster for this competition or any rules or any guidelines or who was going to judge it or what. It was just for fun. So in 5 minutes, I generated the poster and it looked amazing. It was really Veracode themed. It gave people ideas of what to do. So we can laugh and say, oh, well, of course, people want to use AI because they can't be bothered or because of this, because of that. But actually, we know that they're using it and we all use it as well. So I don't know what split we've got, and I asked a couple of organisers and they said, oh, I don't know, about 50-50 of developers and security teams in the room. Just by show of hands, who here works in the development space? Okay, about half. And in the operation space? Okay. And security? Oh, all of them. What job do you have that's all of them?
Blockchain engineer.
Ah, yes.
I write code, I deploy nodes on the internet, and also do security audits.
Okay.
So I'm working with all these.
So hands up for all 3 of those then. So I guess I wanted to give just some solutions and some recommendations for what different groups of people can do. So the idea about delivering secure software at speed, that's something obviously as developers we know about and we want to do. My answer to that at university was mainly to look over at what someone else was doing because I was rubbish at coding. Security teams, they want to gain the visibility across applications and enforce governance across multi-cloud, hybrid environments, etc., and in different languages. I've never worked with a single client who dictates what language, what environment they should code in, what security testing they should be doing at what stage. It's often just left up to developers to see. And then for leadership, they want to be able to say that they're lowering their breach risks. They want to protect their brand. They want to have compliance against, with minimal effort, against ever increasing number of guidelines, for want of a better word. So what does that mean in terms of a path forward? I think that if you wanted to say, what can I do differently in my program, then these would be the things. I think it's really important to make sense of all of your security findings in one space. There's no point having 50 tools. There's no point having your multi-tabbed spreadsheet.
I think referring to your previous slide, you said we have the flexibility to choose any tools.
Yeah.
Rephrasing that question, I don't know anyone who has a job here that enforces a language or coding standards down to the library or to the line. There's an exception.
Go on.
NASA.
Interesting.
They have like a code book, no pointers. They can't afford the software to crash up there when you pay billions. And they have a book that thick in C, what you can write down to the line, the comment, the indentation, the semicolon. They don't get security risks. They can't afford it. But as long as we got AI, and forgive me for the pun, but anyone can be a software developer, as AI has proven. Security companies have a long lifetime in front of them. It's not regulated. It's not like
it's not regulated. No,
like
it's not.
Doctor. If you make a mistake, you're not going to go to prison like a doctor or an accountant who has to lose their license. So you have all the freedom with none of the responsibility.
But isn't that true for development teams as well?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Development teams.
Oh, for any development team, yes.
As opposed to a profession where it's accounting or medicine.
But you raised your hand for developer, no?
I do, yeah. I'm a developer.
So that's why you're in development.
Well, I didn't think about it when I chose the profession. I like it.
You said earlier, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, that you worked in finance. Is that heavily regulated in terms of the environment, the languages, etc. that you use? Because the banks and financial institutions that use us are not at all.
It depends what team you work in. I work in rapid application development team. So if I make a mistake, people might get angry for a bit.
But would they get more angry with that or the delayed delivery?
I think
that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
If you work on more critical systems, then people might get a bit angrier, but there's still nothing will happen to you if you make a mistake.
Yeah. So in terms of path forward, I think it's really important to find all your risks in one place, be able to make sense of your findings centrally, be able to prioritise issues. I think often we have such long lists of issues that we don't know where they all are and how serious each of them are. Fixing issues at the root. There was a report that was out the year I started Veracode, which I'm embarrassed to say was 11 years ago, because the recruiter who brought me in, I told him I'm not going to be here more than 18 months. I just need to get the hell out of Accenture. So 11 years ago, there was a Deloitte report that said that it cost 1,000 times more to fix a vulnerability once it was live than actually in the IDE stage, which makes sense, right? Because the average cost for breach is 4.88 million, and that comes from Deloitte's report this year. So we want to be fixing them at the root cause, and that will take minutes versus hours, days. You look at Marks and Spencer's, right? You look at how much they lost. You look at the Co-op, you look at the Ministry of Justice. I mean, we sit here in the UK knowing and understanding what breaches mean to companies. And it's funny because all my managers and stuff that sit out in Boston are like, oh, have there been any breaches recently that you know? I'm like, really? Do you not read the news? We also want to integrate all of the tools and to have secure code from the start so that we can see them all in one place. So that was what I wanted to share in terms of next steps and stuff. I welcome any questions, any feedback, any disagreements are also very welcome too. Yes?
Have you got any tips for selling risk management, i.e. remediating vulnerabilities as a priority when the delivery, the product, the roadmap is so sensitive to the product manager?
So we have that problem in Veracode as well. Don't get me wrong. our old CEO, Bob Brennan, used to say that every company is a software company, and it's true, right? Because we all use it so much. I would say that, and I would refer back to an earlier comment, which is DevSecOps. If you put sec in between development and operations, as not just as a gateway to production, because that's too late, right? You're going to get anything signed off at that point, right? You just want to go live. But if you're scanning in the IDE, the scan will take seconds or minutes. You won't be delayed in doing it. You'll get recommendations for what to do, and you fix it earlier.
Follow on from that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of, it's a very distributed application stack.
Yeah.
Let's say we've got 1,000 repositories.
Uh-huh.
And we may only work on 10 to 50. So the other 950 are sat untouched until the next big thing.
Yeah.
So the vulnerabilities are there in prod. They get found. You know, we've got a tracker. Yeah, it's a system that finds them, identifies them. We never get any time to focus on the other 950
Because they're still in development.
because, well, they're untouched until something comes around for them.
Yeah. I think that is an incredibly common problem, and that's a problem with open source as well, because you don't know which libraries and classes you're using at the time. But we were talking earlier, and I won't name the company, but given that you work for a commercial bank, I imagine that there needs to be that gateway. You should be scanning earlier, right? You should be finding them earlier, but there should also be, for each release that you have or each check-in of code that you do every day, there also needs to be a check there too.
We scan at in the CI/CD pipeline.
Perfect.
But that doesn't stop something being identified and something being running for 3 months.
Absolutely. And how do you prioritise that? Is then that more of a priority, presumably, because it's live?
It's not. I'm trying to persuade people that it is.
Interesting. Steve, I think you wanted to comment on that.
Run the application pipeline, right, constantly. So you only run them on commit, but you should be running them nightly, right? And then all of your applications are constantly getting deployed, and these things just start to bubble right to the top. The problem is you're only executing the CI pipeline when someone makes the commit, but you've got so many repositories you're never going to do it. So you have to change the mindset to I'm going to build and ship nightly releases to a sandbox environment or a development environment, and then that build is running. Those number of CDs go up, the visibility increases, and then people start to have conversations. The problem is the conversations can't be had. 100,000 to 50 is a small percentage.
Does it even need to be a release though? Can it not just be scanning nightly, like as part of your maintenance window?
Depends where the vulnerability is executed. Right? It could be a runtime vulnerability. Or
True. True.
So it's got to be running for you to be able to see that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We do have runtime container scanning. So we've got a list, massive list of all these vulnerabilities. But it's only when something has a project, has a change come about that we can get any focus on.
I think sometimes the problem is not the standard at all, it's the conversation when you describe the how the and the project or the teams are going to prioritize the feature that unless everything is right.
Kate is subtly telling me we've got time for 1 or 2 more questions. Okay.
So a couple of things. Firstly, just in case there's any confusion, when you were talking about DORA, were you speaking about the EU regulation?
Yes.
So just to clarify, because DORA means a couple of different things. So the new regulation, I think it's Digital Operations Resilience Act. That's a different thing to DORA metrics, which a lot of DevOps people talk about.
My apologies.
Assessment. So I just
My apologies. Thank you for flagging.
But yeah, there was it's an unfortunate reuse of the same acronym.
Why would they reuse?
Well, because I mean, there's 4 letters. What it stands for. So apart from that question, you mentioned Sneak, which I've used before. So is the Veracode product like comparable to Sneak? And if so, you know, in a nutshell, why would I choose Veracode over Sneak?
I'm handing that one to Ricardo. So Ricardo also works for Veracode as customer success engineer on a technical front.
We do have a lot of the same functionality, if I can say that. In terms of where we are better or worse, it's more to our sales team. I don't think we have anyone from...
We have... Oh, so welcome to Diego, who is a vice president, is that right? To sales in EMEA, Europe.
It's a grand title, same really. So what I'm hearing from some of the customers who recently joined us from Sneak, so they left Sneak to come to us,
there were three things that they pointed out. One was security, but within security there's two things. One, we catch the most number of vulnerabilities and we have the least number of false positives, which again is really important in the development community because if you get false positivity, you lose confidence in why you're being asked to do the security stuff.
So yeah, just to point out, because I know someone's going to ask, that stat of us having the lowest false positive actually comes from Gartner, from the Magic Quadrant report for the last 3 years. That's not our statistic. Sorry, Diego.
From a security standpoint, those two things. Most vulnerabilities, least amount of false positives. The next thing is governance reporting. So we are working with a lot of organizations who are in regulated industries. For them, the ability to report on the governance and compliance of how the security is performing at a CISO level is pretty critical. And I believe Sneak lacks a little bit. I'm not saying they don't do it at all, but I think they lack a little bit in that area. And the third thing is scale. So where we get chosen is really in large enterprises because of the way our platform is designed and architected being SaaS, but also because we can scale quite in a big way. Those are the three things I would call out specifically.
And if I was to give a balanced perspective, I would say that historically, so I'm going to slug off Veracode here, historically Sneak have had a better developer experience in terms of the UI, right, because they use dark mode, because there's certain things about the UI that developers used to prefer, and we're working on that, and that's one of our main engineering projects at the moment. And the second thing is that they give remarkable entry deals. I'm not going to be the one that says it, but our what's his title? EMEA CISO, John Smith, would always say that if you partner with Sneak at the beginning, it's like starting with a drug dealer, right? They get you addicted because it's incredibly cheap and you can start using it. And then when it comes up to renewal, then maybe it's a different matter. So I think there's pros and cons of all. I'm not here on a marketing mission, but I think what Diego says is absolutely right for customers that come to us. But I think there's also pros for going with Sneak as well. No.
Because if you look at the application security posture management and the way that market's moving, we're all having to take in data from each other anyway. So we have our own risk manager that we use data from the competition where customers might already have invested in that technology. So it's not so much about just rip and replace, it's about how do we complement each other as well to a certain extent. So there is that happening as well in our market.
Oh, thanks for that. And also 2 or 3 of our largest customers actually use us and Sneak at the same time. So there's an argument to do both at the same time. I think we are out of time and moving to a break. So I'm going to say thank you for all your interactions and questions. I will send out the slides. Thank you for listening.